For the benefit of the education of the internet, in this video, I aim to completely dismantle Conor Murphy's pseudoscience, analyse his current frame of mind, and where he is presently at on the 13th day of his 40-day fast. I am doing this as a lot of the stuff he is saying is quite concerning, and I'd hate to think that people would start to copy him. You will find detailed statistical and graphical analysis, references to scientific journals, as well as clips from Conor Murphy's YouTube channel, as well as films all throughout the video. References are all in the video description. This video follows my previous video titled A Message to Conor Murphy, His Family, Friends and Supporters, which you should also check out. This video is broken into sections: Conor's pseudoscientific claims, Conor's current frame of mind, where he is presently at in the 40-day fast, and lastly, why he needs help and what you can do to help. Let's start off with debunking his pseudoscientific claims, most of which are contained within the Ultimate Quick Guide to Health and Happiness. Let's see what he has to say.
Again, each of these physical things will have an effect on mental health and spiritual health as well. Chronic inflammation, inflammatory and processed foods, breathing polluted air, electromagnetic frequencies such as cell phone waves and Wi-Fi waves, unnatural chemical skin products, unnatural soaps and shampoos, fluoride in our drinking water, lack of sunlight, vitamin deficiencies, and essentially just anything unnatural. Now for the mental stresses. Again, each of these will have an impact on physical health and spiritual health as well. These mental stresses are unnatural mental processes created by the ego. Now these are tougher to fix, but arguably more important. Insecurities, restricted thought, closed-mindedness, self-hatred, putting up a false front, not being your true self, dishonesty, really anything that goes against your conscience or anything that harms others. Fear of death. This is a huge one, but it's not a necessary one, which I'll explain in the next video. Now let's talk about the positive physical things that I like to work on. Each of these will increase your mental health and your spiritual health as well. Physical exercise, breathing exercises like the Wim Hof method, a whole food anti-inflammatory diet, proper supplementation, fasting, sunlight. Not too much though, but the average American gets way less sunlight than they should be. Vitamin D deficiency is one of the most common deficiencies there is, yet it's so important to our health. Drinking either bottled water or filtered water that filters out fluoride. Using only natural products on the skin. Wearing EMF protection, such as copper jewelry. Good posture, including good tongue posture. So, mewing, yoga, and stretching. Getting massages, and really anything else that's physically relaxing. Now, let's talk about the positive mental things that I try to do. These are part of the pure human experience, free from the attachment to the ego or false self. Being your true self, being completely open and honest, dropping that false front you have, either accepting or fixing insecurities, self-improvement. Congratulations, if you're watching this video, you're on the right path. Open-minded philosophical thought and insight, self-love, sharing true knowledge to others, helping others, engaging in your purpose or your passions, non-judgmental human-to-human interactions, and really anything else that you find mentally relaxing. And of course, this is a huge one, spiritual practice such as meditation.
We'll start off with electromagnetic waves. Light is an electromagnetic wave. Electromagnetic waves are only harmful at certain frequencies and distances. Wi-Fi signals, for example, may affect the sperm count if you regularly use a Wi-Fi enabled device on your lap, but using a laptop otherwise is fine, but even whether it affects sperm count is still under debate. As for the widespread usage of cell phones, if it were truly that dangerous, then millions of people would develop health complications as basically everybody uses them. This goes for 5G as well, and the conspiracy theories surrounding it have been thoroughly debunked, so I do not need to go into detail on it here. I also don't see how wearing a copper pendant around his neck is really going to do anything other than being a visual motif, unless he decides to wear copper underwear as well. Now onto mental health.
Any mental health conditions can be solved completely naturally. Mental health is a fast-growing problem in society today, and there's a reason this issue is increasing. Modern society creates a unnatural and toxic environment for human health. Unnatural societal constructs and our attachment to them cause extreme amounts of unnecessary mental stress. When you start working on your physical health, happiness, and spirituality, you'll realize that the attachment you have to these problems and negative emotions can fade away.
Well, the reason that mental health issues are increasing in the Western modern age is not because of a loss of spirituality, but rather because mental health is far more well known about in the community and people are encouraged to come forward with their problems, whereas in the 1960s they'd be stigmatized for developing depression or schizophrenia, for example. In fact, techniques like meditation and paced breathing are extremely popular currently in the Western world. Meanwhile, in countries like China, depression isn't really considered to be real, and Chinese culture is stereotyped as being very hardworking, and suicide rates are very high. So, no, mental health is not increasing due to Western culture. The only point he may have is that certain mental health conditions are more common in urban areas compared to less populated regions, and the reasons behind this are still being researched, but probably due to the extremely fast-paced way of life in cities. However, as I have said, depression has no causal link to any culture, and it is readily diagnosed and treated in Western culture. He also describes doctors prescribing medications as a band-aid, without treating the source of a condition. Well, I disagree. Certain psychiatric conditions are in fact caused by problems with the brain's chemistry, and certain psychiatric medications will in fact effectively resolve those issues, even if you don't have those chemical issues. Furthermore, psychiatrists regularly put patients through referrals to psychological therapies, so to suggest that there isn't an understanding that there may be underlying psychological issues is deeply ignorant.
It's this way how these doctors and mental health people who aren't even happy themselves are trying to make other people happy. Like they haven't even found true happiness themselves, and yet, oh, I'm going to prescribe these people medication, but they haven't even found it within. So how can they give it to other people, right? So I just really don't agree with the whole mental health system here. So I would rather, just not be a part of it.
Furthermore, implying that doctors having depression means that they cannot help people is also a flawed idea. Just because they suffer from the condition does not mean that the condition is incurable, nor that they can't help people with the same condition, and they may actually gain insight into their condition through their work. The skin biome and coronavirus.
Or you look at this video and immediately that automatic programming of the ego kicks in and you're like, no, what? All doctors say that hand washing is good. I'm not even going to watch this video. I'm just going to leave a hate comment. Well, it's that type of closed-minded thinking, that lack of critical thinking that is keeping our consciousness from expanding, right? Now, I just want to start off by saying I do not recommend this, right? This is what I do, okay? Especially if you're elderly or immunocompromised. This is not advice, all right? I'm just telling you what I think. As far as the doctors go, okay, there's this fallacy that we believe that just because all doctors say that it's correct, then it's correct. Well, it's not the case. It hasn't been the case throughout history, right? I want you to think back to the 1950s. Doctors were promoting smoking. They were actually on advertisements for smoking. It was considered healthy because our lack of scientific.
We know about the gut biome already, and doctors can in fact prescribe probiotics for the gut. Furthermore, there is a reason that moisturizing creams, skincare products, and dermatology are such a massive industry. This is not some hidden knowledge. Just because something has been the case in the past does not mean that is the case now. The medical industry has changed significantly since the 1950s, when certain doctors would participate in cigarette advertising campaigns, saying things like, the other cigarettes are more irritating than this particular brand. You can't just take something from the 1950s and say that just disproves modern medicine. Medications nowadays that are recommended by doctors have to go through extensive safety trials to get approval, and pharmaceutical companies can lose a lot of money due to there being insufficient evidence for one of their drugs that they are developing, and that thus leads to them failing those trials. I also don't like how he keeps recommending people not to do whatever he is doing when he clearly states in other videos that he is doing all of this to educate people and inspire them to do the same. He keeps using the same kind of disingenuous refrain, this is only acting, this is not advice, etc., when he clearly does not mean it.
lies the importance of the skin microbiome. Research has shown, and I actually linked some articles in the description below that support this, that our skin biome does so much to prevent disease that we don't even realize, right? You'll find that beneficial organisms on our skin will actually alter the DNA of more virulent organisms. Virulent just means more likely to infect you and cause disease. And it will make those bad organisms actually less virulent. Not only that, there seems to be a type of competition mechanism. They find that skin with a higher diversity of skin flora is less likely to have the bad guys, the bad, more virulent skin flora on our skin. So
Connor also says that the microbiome will make bad organisms less virulent, and thus through competition you are less likely to have bad skin flora. Well, this science is questionable, as at no point do any of the studies he mentions actually recommend not washing your skin, and they only analyze the different strains of skin microbes and how they affect one another. You can't just plug in any random article that mentions the terms hygiene hypothesis, which you find is vaguely related, and use that as evidence to say that you shouldn't wash your hands. Just in the same way, there are good and bad bacteria in your mouth. Saying that we should just encourage bacterial growth there is a bit counterproductive and not particularly revolutionary. Our skin microbiome is also not particularly strong, and so it won't really kill the strong microorganisms. It'll only kill the weak ones. This is why medication or stronger chemicals are more effective. He also mixes up terms like viruses and bacteria. In general, viruses are not any good for your skin by invading cells and making thousands of copies. They attack bacteria and cells, not the other way around. Furthermore, inspiring people not to wash their hands is a particularly bad idea to prevent infections like Ebola spreading. He is literally idolizing the Middle Ages and saying that we should return back to a time of when scientific knowledge was not widespread and people took part in very little medical processes like hand washing for safety. Furthermore, there is no evidence to link the skin microbiome to the state of mind that you're in. There is evidence, however, of a link to the gut biome, as 90% of the brain's serotonin is made in the gut, and of course that has an effect on your mood. This is why conditions like IBS and anxiety are linked, and sometimes probiotics are recommended for those conditions or other medications that affect the gut. He then talks about how washing your hands leaves more space for the bad viruses to multiply. Well, let's just look at what the CDC guidance says. Hand washing in the education in the community reduces the number of people who get sick with diarrhea by 23 to 40%. It reduces diarrheal illness in people with weakened immune systems by 58%. It reduces respiratory illnesses like colds in the general population by 16 to 21%. It reduces absenteeism due to gastrointestinal illness in school children by 29 to 57%. He wants people to, quote, question every construct in society we have today. Well, I can tell him to look elsewhere than medicine and science, as the constructs in those domains are pretty solid and are well reviewed over the course of thousands of years. Next time, please cite an actual medical professional rather than deriving your own conclusions that are way off what the research papers are showing.
Definitely quarantining well, so, you've got that. What do you think of all the COVID stuff going on?
Oh gosh. Oh man, don't even get me started. It's horrible. It's the manifestation of this victim mentality. We always want to blame something external rather than ourselves. We want to blame this virus, right? And that'll never work. We can blame the viruses all we want. It's going to take 2 years for us to get a vaccine, and that's going to happen. It's going to happen again. What's really the issue is our health is so bad that we are susceptible to these viruses. You'll find, people that simply never get sick. I never get sick. I was exposed to this virus. I was around a whole group of people that were coughing on me, sneezing on me, and right after the trip, it was a Vegas trip, they all tested positive. and they were all sick. They were all crazy sick. What happened to me? Absolutely nothing. So you'll find that if everyone got back to their natural, true health, this virus just would cease to be, right? Viruses, bacteria, and humans actually are supposed to live very harmoniously together. I mean, we have bacteria and viruses on our skin, the skin biome, the skin virome. Should be as harmonious as in the most beautiful Amazonian tree that's infested with insects, fungi, monkeys, right? It's a beautiful, harmonious relationship. And because we're just destroying our health and we're treating the viruses as the enemy, then all of a sudden the natural order gets out of place, and now all of a sudden we're suffering the consequences. They're infecting us. The only way a virus can really infect you is if you have some line of defense of your immune system that's weakened. That's the only way. A perfect immune system, you're not going to get sick. You'll find that disease was it was so incredibly rare back in far back ancestral times, so incredibly rare. And you'll find that among animals, disease is so incredibly rare. It happens, but it's incredibly rare. There simply can't be a pandemic. So, and again, even animals today, they're not living in the most unhealthy or healthy environment. There's still pollution and all this stuff like that. But you'll find that if we just got back to our natural, healthy state, these pandemics would cease to exist. So it's just the problem of this victim mentality that's keeping it from happening. Everyone wants to blame something external instead of working on themselves. So that's my opinion on it. A little bit messed up. Western medicine is great for saving lives, right? Emergencies, perfect, you save lives. But people are relying on this Western medicine for their own health when they could fix their health through natural means themselves. I mean, look at animals, right? Animals don't have medical help, and they live more happy and healthily than we do. Ancient humans lived more happily and healthier than we did, and they didn't have any doctors, right? You'll see that our ancestors, you can look at an 80-year-old ancestral skeleton, and it's healthier, it's more mobile. You could tell it was more active based on the bone and tendon density than an 8-year-old today. An 8-year-old today, on average, can't even really walk. They have to be in a mobile home, or not a mobile home, sorry, a nursing home.
Now, he then talks about viruses and bacteria as being good if you are spiritually healthy. He refers to animals and our ancestors as some sort of golden time and foundation of human knowledge. Well, he likes to take this highbrow perspective that has very little basis in actual science and just blame it on some natural intuitive explanation for it, such as victim mentality. I'd like to know more about how the hundreds of thousands of deaths worldwide due to coronavirus is just due to victimhood. Life expectancy has in fact increased drastically over the last century because of our discoveries in the medical sciences. Just because his friends contracted COVID and he was asymptomatic doesn't mean that he did not contract it either, nor does it necessarily indicate something about his immune system. For this specific remark, and given all the news coverage on COVID about asymptomatic individuals and the spectrum of people suffering from disease, I can grant him the special certification of accredited pseudoscientist. So if you're looking for an expert pseudoscientist, he's the person you should definitely listen to. Please consult a real medical professional rather than Connor Murphy, as he clearly has no idea what he is talking about, despite thinking that all of this is somehow world-changing information. Quote, "The biggest plague isn't viruses or bacteria, it is victimhood." What an appalling statement. Many local Native American Indian populations died thanks to Christopher Columbus bringing over typhoid, flu, smallpox and measles. He then says that he used to get sick all the time before pursuing his, quote, true health and happiness, but now he gets sick less severely and less often than the average person. Well, being confined to your home due to a worldwide pandemic, or being in an isolated room in a psych ward, would mean that viruses and bacteria would have a harder time spreading, as well as renting a new apartment that you always stay in for the purposes of a 40-day fast. You can feel over the moon and get infected with MRSA, HIV, hepatitis, smallpox, chickenpox, mumps, rubella, or have sickle cell anemia, Asperger's syndrome, cystic fibrosis, etc. Your mood has little to do with how your immune system handles diseases. Those are two separate biological systems. He also seems to think that vaccines are not good enough as they are only work for specific viruses, and that it is only because our immune system in the modern age is weaker that we need vaccines. He also has allergies. He says, well, I disagree with this, but I must say that over-cleanliness is not the sole contributing factor to allergies. Some people just have an overreactive immune system which can send them into anaphylactic shock after just opening a packet of peanuts. Allergies are also poorly recorded 100 years ago, so we cannot tell if allergies have increased over time. Male pattern baldness. I'll defer to the judgment of Derek, a fitness YouTuber with a channel More Plates, More Dates, on this in his video titled Scientifically Dismantling Conor Murphy's Ridiculous Claims About Hair Loss.
I actually had a hair transplant in the front of my scalp, but it's super important that I try to maintain the rest of my hair, and if possible, increase the thickness by regrowing some of it as well, so I don't need another hair transplant. So a couple months ago, I was on what I thought was one of the best hair loss protocols in the world.
Okay, so I'm about to evaluate his hair loss protocol and establish if I do indeed think it is the best one in the world. So let's see what he says here.
I was using this solution twice a day that was comprised of minoxidil, topical finasteride, retonic acid, hydrocortisone, aloe vera, and I think a couple other things as well. It was designed by some of the best hair loss doctors in the world.
So I'm not really sure how he came to the conclusion that this is designed by the top hair loss doctors in the world, because as far as I know, there is no doctor who would possibly put their license at risk by compounding a corticosteroid with a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor with other stuff in conjunction, and then forcing the user into a position where you can't control each individual dose. So like, I can understand the turnkey attraction of something like this, but the fact is, having all of these variables fixed with one another, not being able to manipulate them independently, and on top of that, just some of this stuff is unnecessary to have in there potentially. Like, why are you forcing yourself to put a corticosteroid on your head? It doesn't necessarily mean that's what you're gonna need. I wouldn't say at all this is the best hair loss treatment in the world. And frankly, I guess there is no best treatment. It's basically what's the lowest side effect profile you can get away with maximum results. So whatever you can achieve loss prevention with the minimal drug exposure would be the best for whatever your level of severity is. But anyways, let's continue from here.
And I was also doing a lot of other things along with that, like hair loss shampoo. But somehow my hair loss continued. A couple months ago, I was shedding literally hundreds of hairs every single day. So I decided I had to change something. And I came up with a plan to try completely natural means to regrow my hair.
Okay, so first thing to note is shedding doesn't necessarily indicate miniaturization. So if you want to determine if you are experiencing telogen effluvium versus androgenic alopecia, I actually posted an article explaining exactly how this is evaluated in a clinical setting, where you look at your hair counts and you evaluate the literal size of the hair, and as well as how it the proportions of it and whatnot. It's kind of like a fixed system this kind of measurement practice goes by, and frankly, I don't put a whole lot of weight behind it, but it certainly is at least useful to differentiate between telogen effluvium and androgenic alopecia, because some people, they might be, with all this stuff, like some people just get telogen effluvium by putting chemicals on their head to begin with, because they don't react well with whatever is in the product, the solution itself, a myriad of other factors, including but not limited to many things we're going to get into later in the video. But just with that being said, shedding hundreds of hairs doesn't necessarily mean bad. Like, you'll often see when treatments are started that you get a shedding phase, and does that mean that you're making negative progress? No, not necessarily. So keep that in mind.
And crazily enough, it worked. Within just a matter of months, all my shedding stopped and I started seeing new hairs grow in. Even while I was in the psych ward without access to all my normal tools, my hair loss progress continued. My hair looks and feels thicker than ever. And I'll show you guys this 2-month transformation at the end of the video. Now, before I tell you what I did, let me tell you what I stopped doing, because arguably that's much more important.
Okay, before we get into the actual pharmacology here, I just want to make clear, stress, even stress, just general stress in your life can cause shedding. And it's pretty clear based on what has happened to Connor in the recent events that he's been extremely stressed. Is this the cause of his shedding? Maybe, I don't know. Could also be dietary deficiencies, underlying autoimmune issues caused by the stress to begin with, caused by a myriad of other factors. Like, we don't know, maybe he has Hashimoto's thyroiditis and it was triggered by just absurd amounts of stress he put on himself by his, recent enlightenments and stuff, where he, totally changed his mindset and stressed him out a lot. So this can cause a shed. This can cause a brutal shed for a long time. Like, if you're under a state of chronic stress, this is like, even guys who don't know how hair loss works know that hair falling out is associated with stress. So like some of the most intense jobs in the world, they talk about, oh, I'm losing my hair overnight. And it's like, yeah, dude, like, stressful jobs will cause you to not prematurely, just shed hair. And that's not necessarily permanent. That is a triggered event that has nothing to do with androgen receptors and miniaturization, essentially. So that is something to note here. In addition, the solutions he's using, is there propylene glycol on them? Is your scalp like completely irritated by them? I don't know. It could be the cause of that too. There's a lot of factors here at play.
I stopped doing anything that had to do with unnatural chemicals. I realized that in the long term, they just stopped working. They were drying out my scalp and they were making things even worse.
Okay, drying out a scalp, making things worse. Maybe reduce the propylene glycol. I don't know. Some people, they can't even use this stuff because it makes their scalp just destroyed and it reacts very poorly. If it's not absorbing and or you are literally damaging the tissue with something that is irritating you to the point of like more hindering than helping, it's not, you need to find a new vehicle. Like, I don't know, maybe that's all it is here. Like, it's hard to say, man.
So I quit the minoxidil, the topical finasteride, and I quit my hair loss shampoo. I also stopped washing my hair with normal shower water. I researched and found that hair loss is actually a lot more complicated than I originally thought. There was much more to it than simply the hormone DHT. I read this literature where calcification of the scalp was a possible factor. So I made sure to wash my hair with only distilled water, because distilled water doesn't contain any calcium or other particles that might harm the scalp or your hair.
Okay, so I'm laughing, but it's not that ridiculous. Anyways, typically people with poor bodily physiologic functions, I would say, are very prone to toxin exposure. You have people who can't even be around, like I actually did a video recently on somebody who committed suicide from having mercury poisoning in his brain. Like, I'm not against like hippie shit, if that's what, some people might see this as. Frankly, there is, actual manifestations of health issues that can come as a result of simple things that a healthy normal person would be able to tolerate just fine. So while some people might be able to tolerate gluten's a bad example, it's pretty general, dairy, chlorine, this, that, fluoride, whatever the fuck, like it can all build up and cause a problem. But in those who are more at risk or have a worse detoxification system in their body, or have impaired methylation, or have, suboptimal glutathione production, or a myriad of other things, most people that are functioning properly, okay, I shouldn't say properly, but they have high level of health and good, they're young men. This guy's like, Connor's like mid-20s. They're going to be fine. It's very, very, very rare that somebody is, expose themselves to the water in their shower where they're going to have like actual recession. It's different because you can't attribute actual recession in a male pattern baldness fashion to chlorine or something, or calcium or something in your water. Like distilled water versus shower water, that's not going to account for actual recession. If you had a reaction, it would be diffuse thinning through chronic telogen effluvium by constantly exposing yourself to this toxin, rather than the manifestation of hair loss in Connor's case, which is blatant male pattern baldness. So anyways, continue from there.
Now, what I did add to my routine were twice a day, 10-minute scalp massages. Age actually contributes to hair loss as well. Scalp massages are great at increasing blood flow. Also, during these scalp massages, I made sure to stretch the scalp by kind of pressing the skin together.
Okay, guys, I've made a video on scalp flexibility before, and you can actually go watch me like do these exercises on my own scalp. I compared it to a scalp, which is pretty much, this was like a non-scientific way of doing this, but somebody who comes from a family completely immune to male pattern baldness. The dad in the family is 60 with a perfect head of hair, and she is has a shitload of aromatase activity in the scalp and has minimal amounts of androgens. The flexibility of our scalps are exactly the same. And this was like in the middle of a time where I was exposing myself to therapies that would put me in a position for further hair loss. And I did regress during some of these, experiments I've done where I put myself in a compromised position to see if my hair loss starts again. And it always does if I use something that is not efficacious or isn't sufficient for offsetting the amount of androgens in my body or anything like that. And the flexibility though of my scalp, it doesn't seem any different to me than a scalp that is like, maybe if I did a biopsy, it might be significantly different. But at the end of the day, is me like sitting there for 10 minutes a day and manually massaging it going to completely mitigate the lack of aromatase expression, the increased AR density, the increased gene transcription, all of this stuff that's going to be occurring in the actual like cells in your body by moving your scalp around a little bit? No, dude. Like, you could literally like microneedle your scalp every single day and rush blood to the spot every single day, and the likelihood that you're going to reverse male pattern baldness is like nil. It's just not going to happen, even though you have absurd amounts of blood rushing to the literal going through the tissue all the way to the outside and exploding out of the skin and bleeding. You're not going to regrow shit, to be honest. You might have some minimal regrowth through the growth factors that are recruited by this, damaging process, and it's going to help, topicals penetrate better and be more efficacious, like minoxidil and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, the blood flow thing, while I do think it is something to explore further and has, validity in some context, to give some sort of credibility to it in like above and beyond pharmaceuticals, to me is just kind of absurd. But let's, go into this further.
So I also read some interesting literature about scalp tension. So as our skulls grow as we age, the tension in the scalp becomes greater, and this limits blood flow as well. They actually did this study, and they found that the areas of the scalp that were most tense actually correlated perfectly to the Norwood scale, essentially the sequence of the areas of the scalp in which you lose hair. So the stretchier you can make your scalp, the better.
So yeah, like maybe that's true, but I mean, I can promise you, your scalp could be a fucking piece of gum with how flexible it is, and it's not going to regrow dead zones. Like, that's just because your scalp is flexible, it doesn't mean that everything underneath it, mechanism of action wise, is working the way it's supposed to work. Like, I get the idea behind it, and I'm not going to say that scalp massages are useless. However, I don't do them, and I've researched very heavily into this. So if I deem it a poor use of my time, and you've seen the shit I've done to myself, like, I don't know, draw your own conclusions from that. Like, maybe you can do it by all means. Like, I've hung my head off the side of my fucking bed. I've done scalp massages. Didn't do shit for me on that.
And most people strip away this good bacteria with shampoo. So I realized that at the start of this journey, my skin flora was very unnatural and lacking. So I used topical probiotics, you can buy these on Amazon, to help restore my natural skin flora and reduce inflammation all over my body, including the scalp.
Okay, so probiotics. First of all, he doesn't mention the strain used whatsoever. He's talking about in general probiotics from Amazon, so it sounds like he has no clue which ones he's even referring to. Topical probiotics, it's like trying to say, first of all, oral minoxidil versus topical minoxidil. Which one shows more results and which one is more side effect ridden? The oral minoxidil works better. Why? Because it's systemic. The topical one works, but to a lesser extent, but it still works. So probiotics, could they theoretically work topically if you had a molecular weight and or the vehicle that was conducive to penetration for it to actually do something? Maybe. But first of all, we're assuming off the bat that the topical probiotics even do something to offset the miniaturization process triggered by androgens. On top of that, the actual thing that's going to dictate the health of your skin and tissues is not going to be the topical probiotic that you put on your head. It's going to be the bacteria in your actual body. So somebody who literally, okay, this is perhaps like a bit of a stretch, but honestly, for somebody who's promoting Bang energy drinks, which will crush your gut bacteria and then act like the topical probiotics, some general random ones you found on Amazon, are going to do something significant when the actual systemic gut health is subpar, is like way the fuck out of the realm of possibility, in my opinion. It's like the equivalent if you're gonna bring a garden hose to put out like a house on fire. It's just like, it's, you know, you're missing the meat and potatoes here, Connor. And even if he doesn't, this is kind of like a side note anyways, even if he doesn't actually drink that stuff and it's all promotional and whatnot, trying to act like he knows which bacteria his scalp needs is like taking a sniper rifle into like a blacked out room and trying to hit a target, like trying to figure out which one is going to be the one that promotes hair growth, if it even had anything to do with mitigating the effects of androgens to begin with, which frankly, I don't think it does to any significant extent. Now, just to really drive this point home and kind of like put this to rest, I did a video on probiotics and their effect on hair health. And I actually went out of my way to buy what is actually scientifically found to be the most likely candidate of all the strains to have a beneficial effect on hair growth strains. Now, these, namely the PTA 6475, is supposed to be the pinnacle of probiotics for hair growth. And this was found in clinical studies that actually evaluated the effect on, you know, rodents, on scalp, on hair growth, relative to rats that had no probiotics and had less, you know, optimal bacterial cultures and whatnot. So anyways, I'm not trying to shit on gut health. First of all, it's super important, I think. And like for somebody who's trying to optimize all aspects, by all means, but is it going to make a difference on androgenic alopecia? That's what we actually want to know. So I use this strain in particular is the one that is supposed to be the holy grail for hair loss. Connor blindly chose one from Amazon. I chose a very specific one in a controlled experiment. Now, first of all, the amount of CFUs you actually get in a probiotic that you take orally is going to be negligible at the end of the day. So this is what I actually found. I did the experiment. I went through like a couple packs of this stuff. I actually probably went through like 4 packs of this stuff and it didn't even make a difference for me. And then I came across something that I've never actually made a video on yet, which I might one day. But basically what I did was I found that you could actually use the strain and make your own yogurt with it and ferment it to significantly multiply so like think about when you leave something out and, you know, bacteria grows, blah, blah, blah. Same thing can apply if you put the actual probiotic into yogurt and you put it at a certain temperature and you let it, you know, chill at that temperature in a, what are they called? Instant pot, whatever it is, squeeze something. I don't remember. Anyways, I use that thing and I've tried several batches of this now. And basically what I did, there's only 100 million CFUs, which is live organisms of each strain per tablet. So most people haven't observed any significant health benefits by ingesting the tablet straight. So what I did is I tried amplifying the bacterial cultures by making yogurt, like I mentioned. The counts are just further increased by performing fermentation in the presence of prebiotic fibers. So what I did was I added inulin to it and I actually fermented it, like I mentioned. So just as ingesting prebiotic fibers increases bacterial counts in your intestines, it does the exact same thing in yogurt if you put it at the right temperature. So it yields a thicker, richer end product, which contains, and frankly, I don't know why more like yogurt companies aren't adopting this practice to, you know, like really crank out higher quality, like healthy versions of their yogurt, but the end result likely has trillions of CFUs present as opposed to the 100 million CFUs that comes in the original product. So by Connor taking a oral like capsule, whatever it is, a pressed tablet, whatever it is, making a topical solution and applying it, first of all, you're going to have suboptimal absorption to begin with, being a topical application. Who knows if the vehicle was adequate? Who knows if the, you know, molecular weight even allows it to get through there to begin with? The strain was probably not even the correct strain if it was even, something conducive to hair growth to begin with. It's not systemic, barely at all, even if it gets in there. And then on top of that, the amount of CFUs you actually get out of that is like next to nothing that you're actually yielding a benefit out of. So what I did was I literally multiplied the amount of bacteria in this yogurt by so much. Like, the thing was so potent and so strong. And I tried this, and even that had no difference on my hair quality that I could mention that is even useful to reference. So that was like the most potent gut health optimizing #1 thing you could do. And I know how to optimize my diet. I use a chronometer account. I literally know about my autoimmune issues. I've sequenced my genome. I've cross-referenced my polymorphisms. I know exactly what I'm talking about. And my gut health has been on point. And adding this on top of it did absolutely nothing to my hair. And I've tried it literally to the maximum that you could try the subpar of like fucking injecting yogurt into my veins. This is the closest you're gonna get to finding out if the actual probiotic strains that are conducive to hair health in the clinical studies completely multiplied to the max to achieve trillions of CFUs, and then ingesting it to get a systemic effect literally in the place that literally dictates your gut health. And that did shit. So no, this is a dumb strategy in my opinion.
And of course, I'm still using my other natural hair loss remedies like my low-level laser light therapy and my 1.5mm derma roller once per week. Also something that helped, I mentioned in a previous video that I stopped taking creatine because the psych ward forced me to. And that's been shown by some studies to increase DHT by up to 50%, which is not worth it in my opinion if you're trying to maintain your hair.
Okay, so first of all, I did a video, I've actually done multiple videos on creatine, and to kind of just write it off as something that increases DHT potentially and then not even mention any of the effects it has on methylation or any of the endogenous health functions that make it so you can actually function properly neurologically as well as physiologically, and even things extending as far as your fertility have to do with creatine. So to claim, oh, I just don't want to use creatine because one study on fucking rugby players showed it increased their DHT. You can watch my video on DHT. You can see my assessment of the data and my assessment of the overwhelming lack of available data and kind of get my conclusion out of that. And from there, I'm not going to say it's completely, ridiculous to not take creatine based on that, but to be on a naturopathic kick like he is and to claim that creatine is like bad, like, bro, you have no idea what creatine does. Like, go watch any of my videos on my pre-workout breakdowns and you'll see exactly why I take creatine to support methylation, because I am homozygous C67T MTHFR. 1 gram of creatine is endogenously produced in the body naturally in young, healthy adults. Most of the human body's creatine and phosphocreatine stores are found in skeletal muscle, while the remainder is distributed in the blood, brain, and other tissues. While there are a host of processes in the body that rely on creatine to be carried out optimally and are often completely neglected, one of the most notable functions of creatine is neurological support. And in addition, the endogenous synthesis of creatine relies on a process called methylation, and arginine and glycine are combined by an enzyme to form guanidino acetate, which is then methylated into creatine. The problem is that this process is dependent on a mechanism of action that commonly is inhibited in the general population via endogenous arginine deficiency, glycine deficiency, or MTHFR polymorphisms, which are becoming more and more prevalent in the general population nowadays. And the MTHFR gene encodes for an enzyme called methyl and tetrahydrofolate reductase, or MTHFR. This enzyme is needed for the production of DNA and methylation pathways that are essential for all bodily functions. Genetic variations in this gene results in reduced activity of the enzyme and has been associated with cardiovascular disease, neurological defects, some forms of cancer, and a myriad of other diseases and disorders. Personally, I am homozygous for C677T of MTHFR, which results in a 80 to 90% decrease in my efficiency in processing folic acid. The direct reflection of that in blood biomarkers can be high homocysteine and low B12 and folate levels. I determined this via just a simple 23andMe genetic test, and you can do the same thing for fairly cheap if you want to assess your genome as well and see if you have any notable polymorphisms that might affect processing of micronutrients and facilitating optimal physiological functions that might otherwise be inhibited if you had certain things like this, like I do. Upwards of 45% of your body's methylation demands are used to synthesize creatine. So for someone with a MTHFR polymorphism, you can put a significant amount of stress on your methylation pathway and deplete far more methyl groups than you should just to create the 1 gram of creatine per day that you endogenously synthesize. And we lose upwards of 2 to 3 grams of creatine per day because it converts to creatinine, which is then passed out of the body in the urine. So as you can obviously see, adequate replenishment of creatine is probably not being accomplished if you aren't consistently eating a fair bit of meat or fish on a daily basis. And for those with impaired methylation pathways, supplementing with exogenous creatine is likely the only way creatine replenishment can be achieved. One study found that supplementing with 5 grams of creatine per day lowered plasma homocysteine levels by almost 50% in the subject who is homozygous for C677T of MTHFR, and creatine supplementation can significantly lower the body's demand for methylation and prevent the depletion of methyl groups. And this is why I personally supplement with 5 grams of creatine per day, as well as other things that are found in our other products and this product like betaine and the alpha GPC and Gorilla Mind Smooth. But anyways, so I have severely hindered methylation and I have to support that pathway via many means that the average person may not need to. But even with that said, you can reduce your homocysteine like in half just by adding creatine in if you have an MTHFR polymorphism. That is the worst one anyways. And on top of that, there's just so many processes in the body that are impeded if you are avoiding creatine, thinking that it is the devil.
And quitting creatine was also part of getting my ideal physique, believe it or not. If you haven't watched that video, I definitely recommend doing so after this. Also, here's a cool example about how all aspects of health are related. I've been taking 2 supplements, magnesium and iodine, to help decalcify my scalp. And not only do they aid in the decalcification of the scalp, they decalcify everything from my arteries to my pineal gland.
Okay, bro. The amount of conjecture in this is just astronomical. Like, did you have a scalp biopsy and see that there's less calcification now? Like, you're pretty much asserting that your diet is deficient in iodine as well as magnesium, so therefore adding unnatural supplement, which is like goes against the whole, stance on this video, I guess. Well, maybe not, I don't know. Maybe I'm just jumping to conclusions here. I thought the whole point was to be like natural and get your, whole foods in and, gut health and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Like, by all means, if you're deficient in magnesium and iodine, add it in. But how many people who are using an iodized salt, which should be like, most people are probably getting enough iodine in, frankly, through your multivitamin or iodized salt or other means. But to be honest, like, I've seen more harm than good in most cases by supplementing iodine. And frankly, that's not always the case though. Some people actually do need it. But I've seen like Hashimoto's thyroiditis being exacerbated by excessive iodine consumption. I've seen cases where it just isn't warranted. And to claim that it's just like decalcifying your scalp, just like, haphazardly, not haphazardly, but just like based on like nothing, seems kind of insane to me. And yeah, magnesium is, good by all means. But I mean, if you really want to ensure you're not getting calcification of your arteries and stuff, what's your vitamin K2 status? Have you looked at that? Have you looked at your vitamin D levels? It sounds like he's on a kick of optimizing, but he's kind of like, something, I don't know. I haven't looked at the rest of his diet or his supplementation regimen. Connor, if you watch this, I bet you're deficient in K2 as well. And if you think that that's going to fix your hair loss, add it in. But I promise you it won't. But it'll definitely not hurt. That's for sure. If you're deficient in it, this is what is going to help pull calcium into the bones and support bone health and avoid it causing issues in your arteries and whatnot. But with that being said, the magnesium and iodine is like nearly as irrelevant as any other deficiency is. If you're deficient in macronutrients or vitamins or minerals, like, yeah, you can trigger shedding, you can cause hair loss, but it doesn't mean it's androgenic alopecia. There's a difference. And there's a reason, even if your hair is better quality right now, the recession is still there, which is what is the thing that we're all looking at, is the male pattern baldness. The pattern itself is representative of, like, if you actually decalcified everything, then why is it not a Norwood 1 again? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to hate whatsoever. I'm just trying to explain scientifically that these claims are just unjustified.
Which I mentioned before is very important if you want to have these spiritual experiences. Calcification is such a big issue, yet it's so overlooked in society today. Most of us have this unnatural calcium buildup from these artificial calcium supplements and these preservatives in food. But then we don't have enough magnesium, and magnesium actually counteracts calcium buildup. But most of us are deficient in magnesium. Calcification is this weird, completely unnatural phenomenon that we really need to work on. And I think me working on it was one of the reasons why my health has improved so drastically. For example, my heart rate decreasing from 70 beats per minute to about 50. I've decalcified my arteries, so my heart has to work a lot less hard. And this decalcification is also probably one of the reasons why I've had these spiritual experiences, along with spiritual practice in general, of course.
Okay, so calcium score. Let's talk about that for a sec. The actual manifestation of calcium and calcification in your arteries is something that manifests years later after it has basically come to aid and defend against physiologic processes that are hurting your cardiovascular health. This is a protective mechanism. Now, can it eventually lead to blockages and whatnot? Yeah, it can, but for what is Connor, like 25 or something? For him to claim that he has calcification in his arteries and that it got cleared up is just fucking absurd. I guarantee if he had a calcium score done before and after, it would be 0 and it would be no different whatsoever. Having your heart rate decrease from 70 to 50 is tied to electrolyte balance. Yeah, and if you're magnesium deficient, it can play a big role. But guess what else plays a big role in your balance of your heart rate and your blood pressure? It's calcium. So trying to like paint out calcium like this devil is just like ridiculous. And I can guarantee you, you had no calcification of your arteries at 25 years old, dude. And on top of that, body weight is going to be a massive thing that depends on how hard your heart has to work to support all that tissue. So the fact that you've been fasting and doing all these things and you've been not eating your diet and you've been, doing this and that, you dropped creatine, you've dropped all this, this weight and whatnot or whatever, that is going to play a role on your resting heart rate significantly. So it's not a coincidence that when you do a dirty bulk, your heart rate goes up and your blood pressure goes up and things go up. It's not like, to me, this isn't rocket science. Like, I don't know, man, like to make these bold claims, it seems kind of insane to me. Like the difference between me when I used to bulk when I was younger, I used to walk around with like almost tachycardia. I used to walk around with almost like 90 to 100 beats per minute resting heart rate just because my body weight was so absurdly above what it was meant to be at. And nowadays, I sleep with a resting heart rate of like 55.
So guys, remember, the answers to health are almost always natural ones. They're just overlooked. But don't trust me. Experiment for yourself and see what you guys think. So without further ado, here's how thin my hair was looking a couple months ago. And here's how it's looking now. As you guys can see, not only has the density increased, but the follicles themselves are just feeling so much thicker and healthier. In fact, I'm feeling so good about my hair, I actually might grow it out a little bit.
Okay, so basically, this is gonna be the main point too. So, about to go in on this guy, unfortunately. So basically, I agree with him on dietary intervention being critical for optimizing health. Obviously, that's a no-brainer. None of us are that stupid that we would think hitting your micro and macronutrients and getting your vitamins and minerals is not critical for ensuring proper functioning. Like it goes without saying. But to claim it has any sort of bearing on reversing hair loss or replacing pharmaceutical medications or anything like that, like, first of all, I'm not going to discount the likelihood and nearly guaranteed likelihood that the way your body processes sex hormones, your metabolism and hepatic clearance of certain things, the balancing of endogenous androgens to estrogens and blah, 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 it's all reliant on having, healthy function, healthy nutrients, healthy, no autoimmune issues, good water intake, toxins and blah, blah, blah. There's interplay between those things. However, this is what he needs to take into account here. I guarantee there's hundreds of guys who are watching this video right now who hit their macros every single day. They hit their vitamin mineral needs. They exercise, they eat organic. They get their nutrition from whole foods. They use Chronometer and plug everything in and plug up any micronutrient deficiencies that they have. They meticulously hit these things every single day. They're lean, they're not insulin resistant. They track sleep metrics with an Oura ring or whatever. They optimize for that. They block out blue light at night. They do all these things. They track heart rate variability. They track resting heart rate and blood pressure. They do all these things. They manage blood glucose control. I guarantee there's tons of guys watching this video right now who have tried and optimized the majority of that shit, which Connor is just learning about for the first time, it seems like, and have done everything to a T, but still haven't regrown hair in dead zones. Like, that's, at the end of the day, you can optimize as much as you want, dude. Like, it's not going to bear a lot of weight on the actual manifestation of androgenic alopecia, unfortunately, which is like, if it did, that'd be fucking great because I do that every single day, but it doesn't make a difference for me. Anyways, and I'm not gonna say it makes no difference. Of course, there is. I'm not trying to say shitty lifestyle, good lifestyle makes no difference. That's definitely not the case at all. But at the end of the day, you have to consider this. Okay, there's all these guys, including me, that optimize the shit out of our lifestyles. We literally research this stuff daily and are complete fucking nerds about it. And then there's a chick next door who literally goes and gets shit-faced on weekends, eats Ben and Jerry's like every single day, you know, goes to McDonald's after she gets shit-faced on the weekends. She doesn't even exercise. She uses fucking liver toxic drugs. She uses this, and that. And she's on birth control. She does whatever the fuck. And guess what? She has immaculate hair. Is she healthy? Fuck no. She's probably gonna have the manifestation of calcification of her arteries down the line. But guess what? She's gonna have fucking hair on her head, and none of us will if we don't intervene, unfortunately. And that's just the reality. Like, she's going to get leveled by health complications, and maybe we won't if we optimize. But at the end of the day, her hairline is going to be a good hairline, and ours is probably gonna suck balls if we don't do something about it. Like, in old age, women have their hair. And that's even if they go into menopause and crush their hormone production, they still have better hair than guys who are on TRT and are optimizing. And then you have a girl who actually, you know, going into menopause, she gets on proper HRT and everything. Their hair, like, look around, dude. Every single girl has good hair, with the exception of a few who have autoimmune issues or have deficiencies or have this or have that or have unresolved health problems. But none of them, except for the ones with PCOS or things that actually have to do with androgen dominance and whatnot, are the ones who have the manifestation of androgenic alopecia. None of the chicks have this shit, dude. It's just us. Even the guys who are doing everything right. You could do everything right, and if you're prone to male pattern baldness, unfortunately, all the scalp massages in the world, all the hanging your head upside down, all the fucking inversion tables and doing whatever the fuck you want, whatever, it's not going to make a difference, in my opinion. Okay, it makes a difference, but I mean, it doesn't, you know, it's not going to protect you entirely. Better way to put it. And as far as the before and after, like, frankly, I don't think his hair's gotten any worse since he first started, like, talking about his hair, like, back in the day. I think it stayed the same, if not, you know, maybe improved a bit. I don't know if he's had another transplant or whatever. Like, it looks fine. So obviously what he was doing was sufficient enough to sustain his, you know, prevent it from getting worse, which is, like, frankly, you can't really expect a whole lot more than that if you're starting, like, behind the curve. Like, you're already starting from trying to gain back ground rather than prevent it from baseline. So showing your hair soaking wet from the top, showing, you know, it still is showing severe recession or whatever, diffuse thinning, and the scalp's, like, red as fuck from going ham with a derma roller, versus it's completely dried and fluffed up and, like, cosmetically, like, positioned to look good for the video. Like, I'll be honest, like, I've seen his hair over the years, and it's gotten no worse since he's, like, actually intervened, it seems like, and it seems like it's been holding up, which, like I said, you can't really ask for a whole lot more than that. But again, people are going to say, well, if he came off his medications, why is he not losing his hair then? Okay, finasteride has a short half-life. Yeah, for, like, the 5 half-lives are going to, it's going to be out of your system, like, within a week. It's going to be out of your, the actual drug is out of your system. But you have to consider, the drug isn't what is preventing the DHT from being produced. Well, it is, but I mean, basically, once the finasteride's gone, your 5-alpha reductase, it doesn't just, like, return to baseline. Like, you don't just replenish the body's entirety of 5-AR immediately. If you look at the charting of the pharmacokinetics as well as the DHT concentrations after discontinuing finasteride after only 24 weeks, which isn't that long. Most people have been using it for longer than that. I'm sure Connor was using topical finasteride for a while, at which also crushes your serum DHT just as much as oral, by the way. But anyways, that's another video for another time. After week 24, discontinuing finasteride, look how long it took to get DHT levels back up to baseline. It took 3 months. So this guy stopped his hair loss treatments for a couple weeks and he's claiming that he's experienced no regression. Like, honestly, if you haven't had a shed from minoxidil discontinuation, that's a good sign for sure, because most people are gonna get fucking leveled by that, unfortunately. So count your lucky stars you didn't get that. But when you actually look at this, you don't have any DHT in your body still. It hasn't been enough time for your body to replenish that 5-alpha reduction from T into DHT. So for you to claim that, oh, there's no difference and blah, 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 like, give it a couple months, bro. I'll tell you. Like, if I were you, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if it were me, I fucking wouldn't be coming off if I was side effect free. I'll tell you that. So Time will tell if it gets worse. And like, honestly, who knows if he's like just trying to promote some natural lifestyle and he's actually still on the drugs or what it is. But frankly, he's just scratching the surface of learning about this stuff, it seems like. And even once he has a comprehensive knowledge of nutrition, it's only going to prevent you from getting telogen effluvium and alopecia that is unrelated to androgenic alopecia, in my opinion. Now, obviously, it's going to help enhance the likelihood that you're going to keep your hair for longer and just keep your organs healthier, and your hair is organs at the end of the day. But the DHT in your body, bro, it's recovering. Slowly but surely, it's getting back up there. So to assume that, oh, I came off finasteride a couple weeks ago and I've had no regression, and the half-life of finasteride is so short, it's out of your system already, it's already out of my system and I'm not losing hair, bro, it's going to catch up. It's going to go to baseline within the next few months. And at that point, then we'll see if it progresses or not. And then you can make a new video and explain if finasteride did absolutely nothing for you. But I can almost assure you, it's still, your systemic DHT is still in the toilet, dude. Like, it's not fixed. So just be aware of that at least before you go on, you know, tangents about how this natural treatment like cured me. Like, bro, you still have like a significant amount of your DHT is in the toilet still. Like, you have not replenished it. You're not natural right now. You're unnatural as fuck. Your DHT is that of like a girl right now.
Connor also appears to have decided not to shower. Here is a clip from Life Noggin's video titled "What Would Happen If You Never Showered."
Hey there, welcome to Life Noggin. So you probably shower, at least I hope so, and you probably do it to keep clean, right? It seems like a healthy thing to do, but have you ever wondered what would happen if you never showered? Well, let's start with the basics. You would, if I'm being honest, stink. I'm sorry to say it, but after a while without washing, you'll start to develop quite an odor. Soap and water in a shower or bath work to rid your body of bacteria and dead skin cells, so these things start to pile up when you stop cleaning yourself. According to dermatology professor Dr. Cameron Roxar, among the pile of dead cells that would accumulate on top of your skin are some proteins with a sugary coating, such as sialomucin. Lots of bacteria love to consume sugar, and when they digest sugary proteins like sialomucin, they produce what we call body odor. So less showering means more stench. But what kind of effects would it have on your health? Well, the results don't look too good there either. For starters, dirty skin means itchy skin. Dandruff builds up, your skin is coated in oil and the dirt that sticks to it, and you start scratching. Scratching and irritating itch can feel great, but if you scratch too much, you can hurt yourself, even breaking through your skin. On a related note, never bathing can put you at a higher risk for infection. If you were to get a cut or scratch, perhaps because of all that excessive itchiness, and your skin was covered in all sorts of extra bacteria, those bacteria might find their way inside your wound and eventually lead to a soft tissue infection. You would become more prone to a whole host of other health issues, from acne and pus to fungus between your toes, or even intertrigo, a painful combination of yeast and inflammation in your groin. Ugh, this all sounds kinda scary and gross, right? It might make you feel like you need to scrub yourself clean right this second. But what if I told you it's possible to shower too much? In fact, a lot of us are guilty of it. Remember when I mentioned that dirty skin can increase your risk of infection? Well, so can dry skin. And you know what can cause dry skin? That's right. Showers. Washing your skin might also remove some of the important bacteria that help your immune system. Some doctors even say that when you shower, you should only apply soap to the parts of your body that typically smell, such as your armpits, groin, and butt. Sure, frequent showers reduce your body odor, but in terms of your health, 1 or 2 showers a week is likely to be enough. So, as is true of many things in life, showers are good in moderation. Showering twice a day or twice a year can both have serious consequences on your health and well-being. So keep clean, but not too clean, and make sure.
Brushing your teeth is also important, and he seems to have dropped that as part of his daily routine. It is not as important if you're only drinking water, but when he gets off his diet, he will need to start brushing his teeth again. The leftover material when only drinking water would be protein buildup and skin cells, and would form a little plaque. However, the introduction of food containing fermented sugars to be broken down into acids and bacteria would cause a significant amount of plaque, which is why mechanical brushing helps remove the bacteria and fluoride helps kill the bacteria as well. Here's a clip from ASAP Science's video, What Happens If You Stopped Brushing Your Teeth Forever?
From twigs to electrical toothbrushes, humans have been cleaning our teeth since the ancient Egyptians in 5000 BCE. But what if you just straight up stopped brushing your teeth at all for the rest of your life? Within minutes of stopping, the food debris and moist environment from your saliva creates an ideal environment for bacteria to survive. Streptococci is one of the most common bacteria found in our mouth, and it's normally not harmful until it metabolizes sugar or protein from food debris. But after a full day, these bacteria would have already produced significant amounts of plaque from sugars. Plaque is the slimy layer of biofilm that you can feel on your teeth when you accidentally forget to brush sometimes. And this plaque actually helps the bacteria adhere to your teeth, which allows them to produce even more plaque, creating a cycle of bacteria and plaque buildup. After a week, all this buildup will cause some pretty serious bad breath. Not to mention that the plaque begins to harden and form tartar that lead to your teeth appearing yellow. At this point, you're also causing significant damage to tooth enamel as the bacteria break down sugar to produce lactic acid. Enamel is the hard, mineralized outer layer of the tooth, and once it breaks down, you can't make any more. After a month, your decaying teeth will form cavities. These holes in your teeth get deeper and deeper if left untreated, leading to gingivitis, an early form of gum disease. This is because the immune system attacks your gums and teeth in response to the bacteria buildup. Your cavities will fill up with pus, which is a protein-rich fluid filled with dead white blood cells, and your gums will be extremely sensitive at this point, turning red when you touch it and bleeding with any significant pressure. After an entire year of neglect, you now have periodontitis. The inner layer of the gum and bone are broken down by enzymes and pull away from the teeth to form pockets, which only further allow collected food debris and bacteria to gather. This causes the immune system to go into overdrive and destroys your gums and ligaments, resulting in advanced periodontitis, where your teeth become loose and begin to fall out. Any longer, and the issues can spread beyond your mouth and into your blood, causing inflammation throughout your organs and increasing the likelihood of erectile dysfunction, head and neck cancer, chronic heart disease, and even dementia development. Combine your lack of brushing with a poor diet, high in processed foods, and especially sugar, which is much more common now than early Homo sapiens would have experienced, and you have a much more accelerated breeding ground for bacteria, putting your whole body's health at risk. Brush your teeth, kids.
In terms of fluoride, Dr. David Ocano in an interview at the University of Utah to explain the rest.
Drinking water, is it bad? We're going to find out the real deal next on The Scope.
Health information from experts, supported by research. From University of Utah Health, this is thescoperadio.com.
There are some people that say that fluoride is bad for us as humans and it shouldn't be in our toothpaste or our water. Now, the thing that I struggle with is if it was really that dangerous, why would we still be doing it? And I wanted to find out from an expert. Dr. David Ocano is a periodontist with 30 years of experience and currently an assistant professor at University of Utah School of Dentistry. So help me sort through this. Have you had to have this conversation with a patient that is very concerned about the fluoride in the water or their toothpaste and being poisoned to the body?
That's a question that all dentists are asked about on a regular basis, dental hygienists also. We know for over 50 years that fluoride has a very beneficial effect to the developing tooth. And the areas that had naturally occurring fluoride were areas where it was found that they had very strong teeth, very few cavities, very few fillings were necessary in those areas. And as a result of those regions having naturally occurring fluoride, teeth were very strong. It was found that by adding fluoride into the municipal water supply, that the developing tooth in children, in the child, could then benefit by becoming stronger and much less susceptible to tooth decay.
So there's research that shows this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
At a very small amount, the fluoride is very beneficial. And that's when you get your best benefit to fluoride in water, is if you're a child with a developing tooth that will become strong for the rest of their adult life.
Okay. So when you go on the internet and you do some research on fluoride in water and you find those that are against it, They say that it's poisonous. They point to the back of the toothpaste tube and say, don't swallow because, there's fluoride. They point to a study from the Harvard School of Public Health that talks about how it can be cause a reduce in IQ points. That doesn't feel right. Help me sort through what's going on there.
You're correct. That doesn't feel right is a good way to say that. Studies have indicated a lot of bias in many instances. The sample sizes have been of concern. Really, the locations where these studies have been conducted, we really can't relate to the American system. So the fluorides we have known at a very low concentration. In fact, the American Dental Association has reduced the amount of concentration that's recommended in drinking water for fluoride. Too much of anything is not good. I mean, we have chlorine added to the municipal water supply already. Too much chlorine there can be a real problem and has been in some cases. But there are a lot of safeguards in the water systems to prevent excessive amounts of fluorides accidentally being placed into your water supply.
And from what I understand, that's what a lot of these studies are talking about are locations where it was a large amount beyond what was safe.
That is correct.
And we have a very good idea based on research what is safe.
Yes,
okay.
Very much so. We have 50 years of data showing the benefits of fluoride. And if you look at the children, especially in communities that do not have fluoride, and the challenges they have with tooth decay and the concerns they develop because of their fears of dentistry, and you look at other children who do not have decay and what great experiences they have in the dental setting, it's remarkable what the benefit of fluoride has been for those 50 years.
And I think a lot of times when you look at a lot of things in life, it's risk benefit, right? There's that risk benefit balance.
Absolutely. The benefits are substantial for having fluoride in your water supply. My daughter is a PhD candidate in public health, and she has mentioned to me that fluoridation in water has been one of the top 5 community health benefits in public health. The first being indoor plumbing, second being antibiotics for infectious disease, and I believe she told me that fluoride in the water supply was the number 3 best benefit that has ever been done for public health.
That's pretty good for fluoride. So if you've had conversations with patients before that have raised concerns, generally after you have the talk that we just had, does it kind of alleviate those, or?
Generally speaking, it does. They recognize the fluoride that's been placed into the municipal water supply or the fluoride in your toothpaste is of such low concentration that it's not dangerous and the benefits are great. Nonetheless, there are some folks who do not believe in it and they are skeptics for the rest of their lives, but we can't convince those folks. But for the masses, where so many people are benefited, people understand the benefits of fluoride to their dental health.
And I think the interesting thing that you said is it's a naturally occurring element or chemical in a lot of water, and it hasn't affected us. It's just those high concentrations that really you got to watch out for.
That is correct.
Have a question about a medical procedure? Want to learn more about a health condition? With over 2,000 interviews with our physicians and specialists, there's a pretty good chance you'll find what you want to know. Check it out at thescoperadio.com.
There are ethical concerns, however, about putting fluoride in the water, even if you use fluoride-based toothpaste, as while it may help to prevent caries, it can be viewed as forced mass medication. Connor also staring directly into the sun before sunset every day. Don't get me wrong, taking in sunlight daily is important for vitamin D, but staring directly into the sun is an entirely different matter. At least he's doing it when the UV levels are lower, but RIP for his eyesight. It is also ironic to hear him talk about how widespread vitamin D deficiencies are, and yet is pursuing a water-only 40-day fast without any vitamins, especially vitamin C and B, which the body does not naturally produce and needs to be taken in through consumption. Going without vitamin C or B for several weeks can lead to the development of scurvy or permanent brain damage, respectively. The guy Connor referenced in his first call with mental health services is called Angus Barbieri. He fasted 380 days, weighed 207 kilograms and drank coffee, tea, soda, milk and sugar, as well as vitamins and electrolytes with regular input from doctors. He stopped fasting when he reached 80 kilograms. Connor is only drinking water, is avoiding doctors and has a low body percentage, so it is quite disingenuous of him to use that as an example. Also, Gandhi fasted for 21 days on water only, not 40. Furthermore, psychosis prevents you from recognizing what your body is telling you. Don't believe Connor when he's saying he's feeling great after not eating for 14 days and losing 20 pounds of weight. He also thinks that his mind is separate to his body thanks to astral projection. In 2018, sadly, a 15-year-old teenager actually died when attempting the 40-day fast, and his parents were arrested. It was also around a year ago. It's reported that Paul Tarashuk, diagnosed with schizophrenia, which is long-term psychosis, could not tell when irritating ammonia salts were put up his nose because of his psychotic state. He was unfortunately left to die by the police on a motorway in South Carolina. They have since amended their policies for mental health emergencies. Now on to bradycardia, or low heart rate. Since when is having a low heart rate a good thing? According to the American Heart Association, in general for adults, a resting heart rate of fewer than 60 beats per minute qualifies as bradycardia. Let's look at what DMT actually has an effect on the bradycardia that you can develop. Drugs such as dimethyltryptamine may have adverse effects upon both the cardiovascular system and on temperature regulation. They may induce unpleasant hallucinogenic experiences. Starvation and fasting can also actually increase your QT interval, and while he was not taking medications during his first week of psych ward stay, he did say he did fast the majority of his time there. This kind of heart rate of 50 beats per minute is only acceptable for highly trained athletes, and as far as I'm aware, he is a bodybuilder and not an athlete, and clearly leads a sedentary lifestyle, sitting around in his apartment all day. Since he is already having cardiac issues prior to his 40-day fast, this may well put him at an increased risk of cardiac arrest. And as we've just said, ayahuasca does have an effect on the cardiovascular system, and ayahuasca is actually under the branch of drugs called tryptamines and is a serotonergic hallucinogen, which we will come on to later. Additionally, in anorexic patients, heart abnormalities have been reported, specifically reduction of ventricular mass, valve dysfunctions and EKG abnormalities. Damage to the myocardial fibers have been documented in obese patients on very low calorie diets. In addition, endocrine changes accompany self-starvation occurring around the time of puberty. Also, you can develop seizures caused by vitamin deficiencies. Ingrid Wolf, a pediatric consultant, says that at her A&E she saw seizures caused by vitamin deficiencies. She says very, very acutely significant malnutrition of children. So to sum up, Connor Murphy seems to believe that just after a few months and taking a megadose of psychedelics, that he is somehow an enlightened guru and a spiritual Jesus-like figure, unlike real self-help figures like Tony Robbins, who spend years developing their craft. He also seems to believe that the only source of true information is from the interior, and we should only look within. While this is very cliché, science and the scientific process is in fact the most reliable method of identifying correct information. So of course you're going to come up with all of these ridiculous ideas if you choose to completely ignore science. He seems to think he knows better than doctors, psychiatrists and psychologists, who all spend years studying for their degrees. What I will say is that the only thing the modern age is bad at from a health perspective, which he hasn't covered of course, is widespread obesity due to the easy accessibility to fast food. Again, he thinks that his philosophical quandaries are somehow meaningful and clever, if not world-changing. This is the problem with spiritual figures, who think they can solve all the world's suffering through just thinking a certain way, and it is quite honestly delusional to think that. They may not realize it, but the laws of science are still acting no matter what. There is a reason why peer-reviewed research is a thing, and why it takes years to build up a consensus on something that we may initially think to be medically beneficial, but it can actually end up being quite toxic. His constant refrain is, quote, "Don't truly trust any external knowledge until you truly trust and experience it yourself." Well, if anybody's being closed-minded, it's him. If anything, his behavior is actually damaging his health rather than fixing it. The positive difference that his advice is going to make is quite small and probably not noticeable, if any.
What about, do you use any drugs or alcohol?
No, absolutely not. I'm being live streamed every second of the day, so I actually haven't really gotten drunk since college. It's been 5 or 6 years.
Since he cares so much about spirituality and Jesus, let's look at his behavior from an ethical perspective. He has boasted about lying to his doctors, acting when making suicidal threats to his audience, promoted not following medical advice or taking medication, and not hand-washing in the middle of a pandemic. He takes high-risk psychedelic drugs such as ayahuasca in order to achieve a quote higher spiritual plane. And he is in fact quite disingenuous about this experience when talking to mental health services, despite saying that he is an open book. Well, which is clearly one of his insecurities that he spends all his time talking about avoiding. He has also not consulted a doctor prior to this 40-day fast or complied with that advice. From an ethical perspective, is this really a person you want to follow and listen to? Also, I guarantee you, if you follow all of his advice by not washing your hands, not taking prescribed medication, not following doctor's advice, and taking risky psychedelics, you will definitely die an early death and develop many health complications. He is not, in my opinion, in any way enlightened. In fact, I would say he is still stuck in the Dark Ages with the Black Death plague still rampant. He has clearly only been reading biblical style and Buddhist style literature. I look forward to seeing him catch up a few centuries. Doctors may be wrong 0.1% of the time, but if you listen to Connor, he will be wrong according to science 99% of the time. In the meantime, I look forward to his next video on why the Earth is flat. Let's go through my quick flowchart called Person Giving Science-Related or Medicine-Related Advice 101. Firstly, does he or she have a degree in science or medicine and is a licensed professional in their field? No. Is he or she citing a scientific research from a peer-reviewed article in a well-recognized and highly cited journal? No. Is he or she advocating going against the scientific community and not following medical advice? Yes. So, don't listen. Bonus point, did this person take a bunch of psychedelic drugs and think they know the answers to everything? Also, use your common sense. Ask yourself this. If you didn't eat for 14 days and only drank water, are you going to feel great and absolutely amazing, or lethargic, tired, and not able to properly stand? I'd advise that you don't support him, as he's just going to follow whatever the next trendy pseudoscientific discovery there is, or idolize our ancestors who are much less healthier than we were, and have much lower life expectancies. And the irony is, given his fixation on natural remedies, starving yourself close to death is quite unnatural, might I add. So, if you enjoy consuming his pseudoscientific claims, I would recommend watching Goop on Netflix, where you can find much more non-scientific claims about our reality and ways to improve your health. Now on to part B, Connor's current frame of mind. So let's now analyze Connor's current frame of mind. With regards to what we have covered so far, showering, eating, washing your hands and brushing your teeth are all basic self-care activities that you'll find most people with mental illness stop doing, and is a clear indicator of having such an illness. In addition, Connor is worryingly of a belief that his experience with psychiatry is akin to Jesus' experience with his non-disciples in his second call with the mental health services, which denotes an almost messiah-like, naive and reductionist thinking.
Was to show that Jesus was actually human, right? And so I did a video, the scientific explanation of Jesus, God in heaven, showed how Jesus was human. I actually used evidence from the Bible to show how he could have faked his death and all this stuff. And I wanted to do more than just talk about it, because if I could actually show people that Jesus was human, well, think about what happens. Humans realize that they can have what Jesus had. And so then they start working on themselves. They get into this self-development. They start working on themselves spiritually, because Jesus had pure goodness in his heart. He was enlightened. He was truly free from the fear of death. He was truly happy, right? He truly wanted the best for others. Now, if everyone could have what Jesus had, well, guess what? What would happen? The earth would heal. It'd become a type of heaven, right? The evil would go away. And so basically I wanted to show people that someone could pull off the story of Jesus in modern day. So what did I do? I faked my death for the world to see. I put myself in a tomb where no one could know I was alive, a psych ward, a confidential place, right? And there were a lot of other connections too. I made sure to do some crazy teachings beforehand in this form of these enlightenment videos to show that, just like Jesus, some people would think I was crazy, some people would believe, and I would have some followers, some disciples, right? And there were all these other connections, right? A friend gave me up to the cops, right? Just like Judas, blah, blah, blah. There are all these, probably 20 something connections that I put together in a video, and it was called The Truth.
He called the rest of society as being in some sort of psychosis, and that he and a handful of people are the only enlightened ones, and that anybody can reach the same enlightenment level of Jesus which he considers himself to have.
Mental health doctors and mental health workers, they don't even know what true happiness is. They haven't experienced it. They haven't been awakened. They haven't reached this higher level of consciousness, and they're not truly happy. They don't even know what that is. They don't even know what to compare it to. So let me tell you this, if you still go throughout life and something external will affect you, like something happens and you feel sad but you don't want to feel sad, or you feel angry but you don't want to feel angry, then you're simply not at the level of happiness. You still have no control over your true happiness. There's a higher level that you can get to. So if you guys want to experience that, I would be glad to do a YouTube video with anyone and help them, or you can just watch my videos because they'll help you get closer to that. But I'm not the one that needs help. The rest of the world is the ones who need help. The rest of the world are in this type of psychosis. They simply don't understand what true happiness is. So here's the thing. This is why you shouldn't trust the doctors, right? Their doctors' diagnosis. I put out a goodbye video faking my death, right? And it was proved that it was acting. It was absolutely, I actually said it was acting at the beginning of the video, and I proved afterwards that it was all part of this plan. Well, the doctors, right? They thought that I was suicidal. That's why they held me in the psych ward. So who's really the delusional ones? I knew exactly what I was doing. I was in control the whole time. I was right where I wanted to be. But the doctors, they thought that something was going on when it wasn't. So what does that make them? Well, delusional. So who were really in the ones in some sort of psychosis, right? It was the doctors, not me. So I would trust me. The only thing that you can truly trust is your own experience. I truly know my internal state. So, yeah, I wouldn't listen to anything that the doctors have to say.
He also always talks about feeling great, and that he can never feel sad again. This is clearly a sign of mania, as constantly being happy is not a good thing either. We have a range of emotions, and feeling sad and crying helps us process events that happen to us. He also said that the prescribed medication made him feel worse and not in touch with himself. Well, maybe because the medication started to resolve the symptoms of mania or psychosis. Also, he said he only took medication in the second week of his psych ward stay, as he fought hard not to take it. 1 week of being on psychiatric drugs is not sufficient to experience relief from symptoms, as it takes at least 2 weeks, if not 4 weeks, to build up the desired concentration of a prescribed medication in the brain, and for it to have therapeutic effects. If you develop psychosis from taking illegal drugs, then you have no excuse not to be taking prescribed antipsychotics. The way atypical antipsychotics work is based on something called the dopamine hypothesis, and they have a general calming effect, but I will cover this in greater detail in my upcoming video on psychosis. He also talks about losing his ego as losing closed-minded thinking and programming and reacting to things critically. Skepticism and ego are two separate things. Losing your ego and being suicidal is not a good thing either, nor is losing your ego and being manic or psychotic. In addition, I don't agree with the concept of long-term ego dissolution outside of a psychedelic experience, since if I were to insult him, he would probably feel hurt. Having an ego is normal or a natural thing, since we evolved as a hunter-gatherer species and formed tribes with group identities, hence why we form societies and why they are so important to our survival. Let's talk about ayahuasca. It is one of the more potent psychedelic drugs and is a Schedule 1 illegal substance. These 2 pages show the taking hallucinogens, including panic reaction, hallucinogen persistent perception disorder, and psychosis. As you will see in his certain clips, his thinking is erratic and disorganized. I'll cover more on this in my video about psychosis, but basically, one of the main features is disorganized thought, which is assessed by the patterns of a patient's speech rather than what they say, and there are different subtypes. For example, alogia in schizophrenia is poverty of speech. Thought blocking occurs when patients have sudden, abrupt stop while talking. Loosening of association is when a patient jumps from one idea to the next without any connection. Tangentiality is similar when a patient diverges from a topic under discussion to another, but the topics are slightly related. For example, a patient talking about how they feel to how the weather is making them feel, and then what the weather was like yesterday. Clanging is when a patient uses words that rhyme but do not make sense. For example, the cow said how he had to bow. Patients who are psychotic like the way the words sound, and will say it often, and is thus evidence of disorganized thought. Word salad is when a patient uses incoherent words that make no sense. And lastly, perseveration is when a patient uses repeated words or ideas persistently, even when they do not need to be. The disorganized thought in patients with schizophrenia most often manifests as tangential or circumstantial speech. Tangential speech means changing topics frequently and having difficulty answering questions. If you meet patients with schizophrenia on psych rotations, you will find them very difficult to talk to, as it is hard to keep them focused and answer your questions without going on to other things. Circumstantial speech is very similar and refers to long roundabout answers to questions. Medics taking histories of schizophrenics on the psych rotations is quite challenging, as it is very hard to keep them on topic. Patients with schizophrenia also experience cognitive impairment, that is to say difficulty processing information, poor attention, as well as poor learning and memory compared with normal. I should also note, him being able to talk non-stop is not a good sign, but in fact a reflection of his current mental state. Furthermore, a feature of a delusion from a psychiatric perspective is something that you can't talk somebody out of no matter what, which is a bit like his 40-day fast. Now on to another clip. For All Mankind is a recently produced alternate history TV show set in the 1960s which explores the concept of a space race never ending. In it, a character called Gordo Stevens, portrayed by the character Michael Dorman, develops a state of psychosis due to being exposed to extended periods of unnatural stress, as well as probably being predisposed in terms of both genetic and environmental factors. Let's watch 2 clips. So we'll now review video footage of Connor prior to the psych ward trip that he uploaded to YouTube, but after ingesting ayahuasca. He is clearly still in the same episode of psychosis, and it has not been properly treated. Clip 1 shows him losing track of what he is talking about and being generally confused.
So what do you
Okay.
Fuck. This is, you don't understand. You have no fucking idea how hard this is to say. Like, oh, fuck. I want you to imagine, you know how I always wanted you guys to be proud of me?
We are. We always have been.
Will you, though? Will you be always proud of me no matter what?
We don't have any choice.
That's not true. It's a falsehood. Like,
that's how we look at it, though. Sure, we're going to stick with you, whatever's got to happen.
If anything, just be happy that you guys are correct. This shit is not real. We read over it, me and my friends last night, and it made no sense. Just no sense. Like, it completely vanished. All the sense that I had of it was gone. And I'm so scared. I just don't know what's happening. I don't know. You guys were right. Let's just say this. I'm going to continue YouTube, which is fine. I just lost a few days of reality. I'm going to continue YouTube like it always has been. It's going to be good. There's a lot of business opportunities in Austin. And it's going to be fine. Fuck! Damn it! I tried so fucking hard. I forgot to add the preface. You guys remember the preface you told me? Remember the fucking preface?
No.
The preface to the book. Guys, okay. Hi guys, Connor Murphy here. Sorry, okay, I forgot to add the preface. Guys, just to let you know, I'm in LA trying to be an actor, remember? Like, it's fucking coronavirus. I have nothing else to fucking do. So I'm practicing
with us now?
Huh?
Is that what you're doing? Are you fucking with us now? That's what you were doing?
What do you mean? No, I'm adding, one sec.
Okay.
Let me add the preface. So guys, just to preface this little acting thing, guys, like, none of this is real, okay? I'm not actually fucking enlightened, okay? I'm not actually God. That's fucking crazy, okay? It's an act. It's a fucking act. So to preface that, okay, now we can start the video. Wait, what's the video? What video are we filming? You told me to add the preface. You made me realize the preface. I needed a preface or I would seem crazy. So if you told me to add the preface, you must know what the video is about. What is this video about?
Are you talking to us?
Yeah, Mom, Dad, yes, you're right there. I see you. Mike Murphy, Kathy Murphy. I'm not talking to fucking YouTube. So remember yesterday, I was writing, you told me to add a preface. You know, so people wouldn't think I'm crazy. So I can't say that I'm God to the internet. You can't do that.
So actually, you kind of came up with it yourself. We didn't tell you to do anything. You just kind of like, we were just talking about it.
No. You can't come up with something yourself. Stuff comes from external. You can't come up from,
internally.
You can't come up with something internal. Everything is just your thoughts, actions, like your societal constructs. Like you learn shit from the media. You learn shit from everywhere.
So just a second. So that thing that you just did to us that said that we were right, it didn't make any sense. Was that just?
No, I'm trying to be dramatic for the YouTube video. People have to watch this video. They have to watch the video the whole way. Remember, so YouTube, remember, watch time is very important.
Right.
So I have to be very like dramatic, right? So I have to display emotion because then people will watch to the end. They're like, I don't understand. Like, what is the end of this video? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So they have to watch the entire time. So I have to act, right? I have to act emotional, just like I do on camera. Like I'm not my real self. I'm acting emotional, more emotional than I would be. But then I forgot to add the fucking preface. I was looking at you guys and I'm like, fuck, they told me to add the preface. And because I can't just start out acting like that, or else people would think I'm crazy.
Well, but you started out talking to us. not your audience. You started out saying, Mom and Dad, you were right. I read it. My friends.
No, I was talking to my audience. I'm talking to my audience. Remember YouTube? I'm a YouTuber.
Right.
I'm putting out this video.
But today you said, Mom and Dad, you were right. So you weren't, we thought you were talking just to us. You weren't talking.
No, you guys are, what? You guys aren't in on it? No, you guys are fucking with me. You guys are fucking with me. You guys are good. You guys are good. You guys are fucking good. Huh?
What are you talking about? You started this by saying, Mom and Dad, you were right. My friends and I read it last night. It didn't make any sense.
Wait.
That's what that's how you started this conversation.
Yeah. What does that mean?
We thought you were just talking to us. We didn't know you were talking. I mean, when you say
both. We're both right. I'm talking to both. Talking to YouTube, talking to you. It's all the same. Wait. Yeah. It's both. Like, because remember, we're being recorded, right? Remember how I asked to record? Because we're talking to YouTube and I'm also talking to you. I mean, you're experiencing what I'm experiencing, and YouTube is also experiencing what I'm experiencing.
You're not putting this on YouTube with us.
What do you mean?
You're not putting our conversation on YouTube.
You guys don't remember?
You're not putting our conversation on YouTube, correct?
Yeah, this isn't feeling too funny, Connor.
We never.
Okay, no, stop. So, hey. Okay, now I'm.
Why are you recording this conversation?
Stop. Jokes up. Stop. Jokes up. Please. I got it like it was funny, and I don't want the joke to be going on anymore. Please stop the joke. You guys are way too good at fucking actors. Like, I literally don't know what's real or not anymore. You guys are too good of actors.
We're real, Connor, and we're concerned about you, and you're just proving that we are concerned about you.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, let me restart, because there's one thing that I don't know. This is what I've been trying to ask of you. What is this YouTube video about? Why am I recording this? If I was recording it for YouTube, why? Why would I be recording it?
You said at the very beginning that you wanted to record it so you could understand what's real and what's not.
This is taking much longer than I thought. This is going to be a lot of watch time.
You are not putting this on a YouTube video, Connor.
Well, of course not. Why
are you recording it?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why the fuck am I recording it? Why? I am trying to figure it out just as much as you. Why the fuck am I recording it? Think, please. I cannot.
You said you wanted to know what's real.
Okay, first, let me just speak to my YouTubers real quick. Guys, if you somehow got lost in all this, this is an act. I'm acting, okay? Back to parents. I want to know what the YouTube video is about, though. That's all I want to know.
It's your YouTube video.
Yes, but you guys told me to do the preface, so you guys must know what the YouTube video is. You guys told me the preface. That came from you. You guys told me the preface. You guys somehow created, there's a reason I'm here. You guys somehow created this YouTube video. What's Dad doing?
Just turning this off.
I mean, I'm sorry. Hey, look, no stress. Let's just fucking chill. No stress. There's no reason to have any stress, okay? Remember yesterday, everything was good. Remember how you felt yesterday? It was fine. Why would that go away? Why would things change? The feelings that you guys have are real. What comes from within is real. If you guys felt yesterday something, you guys felt it yesterday. You guys felt that I was going to do something. You guys fucking felt it. It was the only real thing that you've ever even fucking experienced. You've never seen someone talk like I have. You've never seen someone fully believe something, and it made you believe.
But you don't even know why you want to do a YouTube video.
No. And I need you to tell me what this video is about. Because this is part of the journey. You telling me what the YouTube video is about. Why the fuck would I be recording? Why would I ask you to record? Why would I be acting? Why would I be doing all of this? Why am I even saying all this? I don't know. The words are just coming out of my mouth, by the way. All of this. Why? Like, you guys know. You guys knew yesterday. You guys know now. Why am I recording the video?
What were your plans, Connor? Tell us again, in your own words, what you planned.
No. You tell me. Remember, I'm looking for answers, okay? Remember, you guys are in reality. Help me out. Yesterday, what was I going to do? We were talking on the phone yesterday. What was I going to do?
Go to Austin. Move to Austin.
Okay. What was
Clip 2 shows word salad, him using the wrong words, and even saying words are just coming out of my mouth.
The best thing that you could possibly imagine. Now, there are more things that you could imagine, but the best thing that you could imagine right now is that everything that I said yesterday was true. That I was going to put out this book. You gave me this preface. I was going to use the preface and it was going to make everything okay. With the preface, I can't sound crazy, right? I was going to literally turn it, the world into heaven on earth. And we were all going to flourish and live happily ever after. That's what you want to believe. That's what would make you the most happy. Of course. How could it not? How could it fucking not? How could you not be happy if there's heaven on earth? How could you not be happy? It's fucking beautiful. So why are you resisting?
I'm not. I don't get it. I mean, I'm going along here, dude. It's like,
why? Okay, why?
Probably one reason is I got to go to work this afternoon.
Why is
one thing?
Yeah. Why isn't work heaven on earth?
Because it's called work.
Okay, and it's just a fucking word. It's a language. It's not real. Why isn't work heaven on earth? What? So let me get this straight.
Where are you going with this, dude?
Are you?
I don't know if I really want to play along with this. I mean, I'm happy for when me and Mom got off the phone yesterday. We said, okay, you're doing this thing. Cool. You seem to be passionate about it. Who are we to, doubt or, we're scared for you because we naturally would be, but hey, more power to you. But you got to cut us a little slack here. You need to picture looking down upon this as if you were not in this stage of enlightenment. And from our standpoint, and this is actually just getting kind of.
Clip 3 shows some manic behavior, jumping up and down.
We can be friends. We can completely be and utterly honest. We can.
I think you should be working on Morgan on this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna do this to her next. Fuck yeah. She's gonna be on YouTube. I mean, I'm gonna talk to her. No. Wait. Fuck. What is the video? What's the video? Tell me the video. You know it. Tell me the fucking video. Guys, by the way, I'm acting. This is really good acting. Come on, just tell me.
Who the fuck are you talking to?
Tell me the video. Why would I be recording you guys right now? What makes you happy? I have unlimited money in the world, right? What's the most viral fucking video on earth? What does everyone want? Yeah, you know it. What does everyone want? They want fucking enlightenment. They get to experience it. They get to fucking experience it. They get to watch it on YouTube. I lost you for a second. I'm just acting. It's not real.
Okay.
Let's snap back to reality.
Why don't we just...
Yeah. We need to stay in reality for a little bit here because you need to practice your acting on somebody other than us, I think. Because I don't think we're liking it.
Clip 4 shows him using acting as an excuse or a cover for all his mental issues and express his subconscious beliefs or thoughts. I think he should be honest with everyone and stop using acting as a cover.
Could be crazy right now or not, but remember, we figured out the crazy thing. I have a preface, so no one's going to think I'm crazy. So we go to Austin together. We don't have to. I go to Austin. We could go to Austin together. I'm going to have unlimited money. Like, now I know that sounds crazy, right? I'm not going to have unlimited money, right? But I can, I have a lot of money. I'm going to make more money than you guys could have ever imagined. More money than I know what to do with. And, people could spend their money on private jets, some weird material shit, but I don't want to spend my money on that. I have extra money, and I want to spend it on getting closer to you guys.
Hey, let me ask you a quick question. How are you going to make that money? You haven't figured that out yet, probably, but You know it's coming.
What's this video about again?
Enlightenment? Okay.
YouTube. Sorry. Guys, by the way, talking about YouTubers here, I know it's hard to understand, but this is all acting. Parents are like, everything's acting, okay? Yeah, Wait, what? I'm gonna make my money through.
As you may also be aware, he has recently tried to paint his behaviour prior to the admission to the psych ward as methodical, saying that this was all acting and pre-planned, and that he booked a flight ticket to Austin. But it is apparent that when you watch the videos, he has no idea what he is doing at that moment in time. He forgot what he was talking about on his phone call. He could not remember his plane ticket to Austin and what he was going to do there, and had to ask for his parents for them to remember it for him. Interestingly, he still had the same beliefs about spirituality prior to going into the psych ward, and wanted to write the same book that he is presently writing to help bring peace to the world. Does this sound like an enlightened person to you? In one of his live streams, he actually criticizes the doctor for providing 2 diagnoses, when in fact stating alternative diagnoses is not a bad thing, and means that the doctor is being proactive and doing his job properly by investigating what other possible mental health explanations there could be for his behavior. It is not a sign of weakness. Let's now read more into the hallucinogen perception persisting disorder. Hallucinogen-induced psychosis usually resembles the psychosis of schizophrenia, but sometimes has manic features as well. The symptoms may be indistinguishable from primary psychotic disorder. Sudden onset in the context of a recent history of hallucinogen use strongly suggests the diagnosis. If symptoms persist beyond 4 to 8 weeks, the patient likely has a primary psychotic disorder that was exacerbated or precipitated by hallucinogen use. Show the potential problems with drug use, the major diagnostic criteria for schizophrenia, and the 3 syndromes of symptoms characteristic of schizophrenia. We'll also read the bit in the top left. Hallucinogen-related disorders. The hallucinogens are a diverse group of serotonergic compounds, including LSD, commonly known as acid, mescaline, MDMA or ecstasy, psilocybin, and DMT. The term hallucinogen is somewhat misleading in that true hallucinations are much less common than the visual illusions and other sensory distortions with this class of drug. Hallucinogenic compounds are widely distributed in nature, and DMT is a naturally occurring compound in the mammalian brain. Subject effects of hallucinogen intoxication include perceptual changes such as illusions, hallucinations, depersonalization, derealization, and synesthesias, as well as a wide range of unpredictable affective effects, including euphoria, dysphoria, self-transcendence, meaninglessness, anxiety, paranoia, panic, and calm detachment. Physiological effects of hallucinogen intoxication include mydriasis, tachycardia, sweating, palpitations, blurred vision, tremor, and incoordination. When presenting in a medical setting, hallucinogen intoxication may mimic acute psychosis, delirium, or panic. History of recent ingestion of hallucinogens is generally necessary to make the diagnosis, because hallucinogens are not detected with routine urine or serum toxicology. An interesting pathological finding of patients with schizophrenia, is that if you image the brain or perform an autopsy, you will find that the lateral ventricles are enlarged, but we are not entirely sure why. Lastly, it is very important to note that there is a reason that deaths from starvation in first world countries are people with mental health issues. Psychosis is real and is a medical emergency. Thus, he probably needs urgent medical help. If his life is on the line and he is going to suffer severe side effects from starvation due to his psychotic state, then the mental health services have no choice but to intervene. Let's read a bit more on DMT. Some researchers speculated that schizophrenia may be caused by an excess production of an endogenous psychotogenic compound with a particular focus on DMT, with studies showing it produced psychotic-like positive symptoms in normal volunteers and other studies reporting differences in urine and plasma DMT levels between patients with schizophrenia and controls. Although these findings were not consistently replicated, it was recently shown that DMT is produced in the pineal gland of rats and possibly that of humans as well. Particularly in high doses, mystical type experiences may occur, typically including an ineffable experience of unity and transcendence of space and time, which is experienced as deeply positive, sacred, and meaningful. DMT is normally inactive orally due to rapid metabolism by MAOA. It is normally smoked or occasionally injected or insufflated. In smoked doses of around 25 milligrams, DMT produces a brief 15-minute and extremely intense experience that can involve complete loss of contact with reality, intense visual experiences, terrifying disorientation, loss of ordinary reality and self, mystical experience, and or the experience of contact with other worlds and beings. Marked tolerance does not seem to develop to DMT, but it is unusual for people to use it very frequently in any case because of the intense and sometimes overwhelming nature of the experience. DMT can be rendered orally active by administration of an MAOA inhibitor taken either before or at the same time as the DMT. Ayahuasca is an herbal preparation used traditionally in the Western Amazon basin, which typically contains both monoamine oxidase inhibitors and DMT. In the typical brew, the MAOIs are harmala alkaloids that come from a particular vine, and the DMT comes from the leaves of a particular plant. The brew has effects similar to those of classic hallucinogens, although it should be noted that the harmala alkaloids are probably psychoactive to some degree, and they, not the DMT carrier, are traditionally considered the defining and essential ingredient to ayahuasca. Ayahuasca has been used in shamanic traditions in South America for hundreds of years and is used as a sacrament in several syncretic religions that developed in Brazil in the 20th century. More recently, it has been used with increasing frequency in North America and Europe for therapeutic purposes or spiritual exploration. The effects of ayahuasca typically last about 4 hours and are generally similar to those of the classic hallucinogens described above. Nausea and vomiting are common, probably due to the harmala alkaloids, and purging is believed by some practitioners to be a valuable part of the experience. Hallucinogen intoxication presents as an acutely altered mental status and behavioral changes following ingestion of a drug. Patients are often agitated and fearful and may fear that they are, quote, losing their minds or be experiencing panic or paranoia. Occasionally, users have become acutely depressed, which can lead to suicidal behavior during or soon after intoxication. In other cases, patients may present in an expansive, grandiose, or euphoric state resembling mania. Adverse reactions are more common in inexperienced users with unexpectedly large doses or under stressful circumstances, but can occur at any time. In terms of further evidence of his current manic state, here are 2 clips from the video titled "I'm having a mental breakdown and I need help," published just prior to his starting the 40-day fast, and you will see that they are very similar to his behavior during his conversation with his parents prior to his admission to the psych ward.
I fully admit that I am crazy. I shouldn't be easy on myself, okay? I am crazy. I'm okay. I'm crazy, but I'm okay. I'm crazy. And I freaking love it, baby! Let's go! It is incredible. You guys don't understand. It is incredible to be crazy. I'm free. I'm free from suffering. I'm free from insecurities. I'm free from all mental worry. I'm free from the self. I'm free from this restricted thought, this restricted psychological prison that was Connor Murphy. It was prison. It was suffering. It's this restricted thought. I had to behave in a certain way. I had to please people. I had to care about what other people think. It doesn't matter. It's not real. It's not. And in the truth video, I proved, look up the video, The Truth, Connor Murphy. I proved that I manipulated the doctors like my little puppets to tell the story of Jesus. I wanted to be in the psych ward. One, it was confidential, right? No one could know if I was alive or not. And two, at the end, I would have some sort of credibility because the doctors would say, hey, he's not insane, so maybe you should listen to him. I tricked the doctors into thinking I'm insane. They thought the goodbye video was real, don't you get it? I proved the goodbye video was acting. And they thought it was real. You know what that's called? Delusion. You'll see that the truth video has many other teachings in it. The doctors were delusional. Somehow the best psychologists in the world, I manipulated them like my little puppets. They were never in control. They had this delusion that they were in control. But I was in control the entire time. I was doing it for this month-long YouTube stunt to try and wake people up. So who's crazy? I'm where I've wanted to be at all times. At all times. I want to wake up the world. I want to make the world a better place. And whether you believe me or not, it's happening. Look at even the dislikes on this video. I get to choose the dislikes. I can bring people from my other channel, Connor Murphy Vlogs, Instagram, people with the highest egos in the world to dislike this video. Why? Because it causes this controversy. People realize that there's this controversy, that there is this truth, there has to be. It makes people want it more. It makes people search. Or it could be, that could be reverse psychology. So you won't dislike this video, I don't know. But it's all a plan, I do know. Everything's been a plan, and the plan is just getting started. You have no idea. You have no idea how crazy this plan's about to get. This is nothing. The Truth series wasn't the end of the plan. This isn't the end of the plan. Just wait. Oh my gosh, just wait. Just wait. Maybe the next video, maybe the one after that. We'll see. But it's about to be crazy. And everything's been planned out. Everything has been in my control the entire time. I've always been exactly where I've wanted to be. And I proved that in the truth video. So who's crazy? The person who knows? Who's exactly where he wants to be? Or the doctors who are delusional? They're delusional. They thought the goodbye video was fake. Ask yourself that question. Now, Connor, how are you so confident? You're arrogant. You say you lost your ego, but you're arrogant. You think you know the truth. Do some more research. Research only hinders the truth. The truth is something that we have unlearned. Now we need to unlearn our knowledge to get back to the truth. So, literature, science. Now, certain scientific pathways can get us closer, but most just gives us this false understanding where we can't find the truth anymore. It's covered up by this ego, this self. We have to lose the self. So why am I so confident? Because it's inevitable, don't you see? The world will keep searching forever until they find the truth. And this is the only way you'll stop searching is when you know. There's a place you can get to when you know. It's bliss. It's ecstasy. It's incredible. And all I'm trying to do is get you there. That's all I'm trying to do. It is my life's mission now because it is so incredible. I just want to get you there. And so all these videos have a purpose. Yeah, absolutely. I acted crazy in that video because I wanted to. I can talk normal to you right now. Oh, he's still pressed for words. He's still having these delusions. He's bipolar. He's in mania. What is mania? What is mania? Mania is being happy and not afraid to express it. How is that bad? That's insanity for thinking that mania is bad. Mania is only bad if it's followed by a depressive episode. But I can't be depressed anymore. I can't suffer, and you'll see. The test of time will show you. Don't fall for any more of these videos. If there's another video where I'm sad, I'm so sad, don't fall for it. It won't be true. Because I am the happiest man alive. Or at least tied for the happiest man alive. A lot of people have found the truth. That's the thing. And all
finish with Gordo's psychotic episode from For All Mankind. Now on to part C. Where is Connor presently at in the 40-day fast? Well, today's day 13. So by scouring his live streams for his daily weigh-ins, I have put together this statistical analysis of his weight loss so far. So you can see that he's presently at 180.6 pounds and he's lost 9.4% of his body mass, starting body mass. Using a linear model, we can estimate that at day 40 he'd have lost 30% of body mass, or using a rolling average, 24.3%. That would come to around 51.4 pounds lost in total. According to the British Medical Journal, which we'll come into in a bit, 10% is when medical intervention is needed for hunger strikes, as severe side effects start at this point. 18% is when very serious conditions will occur, and 40% is a point of no return and death is inevitable. So we can also look at the BMI of those 40 days, and the linear BMI would be 17.5 and is severely underweight or anorexic, and the rolling one is borderline underweight but no body fat. It would look something like on the left, and it would be situated on the left, nearer to the top here as well. I've also put together graphs showing this transformation as well as the linear models for those weights. Now in terms of the symptoms that he is presently experiencing. He says that he doesn't feel hungry. Well, that's because during starvation your stomach wastes away, so you lose sense of hunger. He even says this in one of his live streams, that even eating just a little bit of food every day would make him feel even hungrier.
Yo, what up? We are back. Awesome. Love you guys too. Yeah, I'm good. I'm feeling good, dude. I said I'm gonna try and drink a little bit more water. I've been feeling the tiniest lightheaded, so I might be slightly dehydrated. So we're gonna see how I feel.
He has also mentioned on his live stream on day 13 that he is feeling lightheaded, which he attributes to not drinking enough water. Feeling lightheaded and syncope is actually one of the side effects of starvation, so it may have something to do with that as well. He has also been finding it difficult to move around, as you can see in this video. He also has difficulty even attempting basic workouts, performing very few reps, and spends most of his time sitting on his chair. He is ostensibly physically fatigued. He also said in his live streams he only drinks a 500 milliliter Evian bottle of water a day and some filtered tap water from a pitcher, but never drinks water at night, which is dumb, as that is going to lead to even more dehydration. The recommended daily water intake is 6 to 8 glasses of water a day, which we're not entirely sure if he's taking. He's also going to find that starving yourself for several weeks is pointless, as you're going to lose the ability to concentrate, move around, do basic things, and will feel pretty lethargic as well. He won't be able to keep working on his book or ponder philosophical quandaries, as his brain will be in starvation mode and he won't have the energy to think. Here is what Greg Doucette, a qualified kinesiologist and IFBB bodybuilder, had to say about the 40-day fast.
Oh, how is this legal? How are we allowed to do it? Last I checked, you're not allowed to try to kill yourself on a live stream. Since when did the rules change? Or do you guys think it's any different? To withhold nutrition that you need for survival. If there's something wrong with you at the time, Other people need to step in and intervene. If I say, hey guys, I'm going to jump out of the window on my 11th floor apartment building. You want to watch? It's going down. I'm going to do it in a week from now. Just watch. I'm going to show you the whole... Somebody better come in and fix this. Help him. So somebody best and go and help him. And if nothing happens, then he's not going to make it. He's not going to be able to survive 40 days on just water. He's not 400 pounds last I checked. Okay? You can't just not eat, not have any vitamins and minerals. You need it for survival. If somebody said, hey, I'm going to go outside in the wintertime naked for 40 days in -20 weather. Well, that means you're going outside to die. You can't just do that. It's not allowed. But let's break it down. Let's see what's going to happen. Okay, so I'm not having any sex for 40 days while starving myself. Well, that's freaking easy. He's got no energy to have sex within a few days anyway. No fapping. He's not going to be able to get an erection in a few days anyway. 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 days. Maybe he will be till then. Then he's going to have no energy. Your body's shutting down. Your body senses it's in a starvation mode because it's their starvation mode. It's literally starving. It doesn't want to procreate during times of starvation. The body's going to think, shucks darn it, it's winter time, there's no food source, the poor guy's lucky he got some water so he can at least live a little bit longer. But we're not going to send out any hormones to make him want to have sex and reproduce. Why would we do that? There's no food available. So what's going to happen? Well, at first he's going to lose his glycogen stores. So his muscle glycogen is going to go to a zero. He's going to have no glycogen. He's going to lose a lot of water weight at first. Going to get ripped. Going to get shredded. He's going to look probably pretty good. First 3 days, he's going to look pretty good. Lose a lot of weight. Then he hasn't had any protein. What do you think is going to happen? Well, do we need that or do we need the pumping heart? I got the dibs. Not the DOMs, the dibs. I got dibs on protein. So I'm going to borrow some amino acids from here and put it into there. So your heart wants to survive. So the body is going to use all its muscle mass for energy and amino acids to survive. Your brain is more important than your delts. It really is. You might not think so, but it really is. Okay? Connor Murphy, maybe his brain isn't working so well right now. Maybe. His delts are. He's got pretty good muscle. But he's certainly not thinking straight if he thinks he can just go 40 days without eating and have no problem with that. Just because in the Bible they went and did a 40-day fast doesn't really mean that's what you're supposed to do now. Okay? It's not the way to do things. I don't know if he thinks he's a certain reincarnation of something. I don't really know the whole story. I just know that you can't just starve yourself for 40 days and think that's a good thing. I did a video on David Lade and cautioned people not to copy that diet. It was a 72-hour fast. That's 3 days. And I was cautionary on the danger that that can create. It's not healthy. 40. 3 is bad. 40 is crazy. It's asinine. It doesn't make sense. You should never do this. He's going to be losing muscle constantly. No, but Greg, the growth hormones could be released. Autophagy is going to be great for his hormones. It's going to be great for his skin and his health and all of this stuff. No, it's not. You can argue that it's good for 16 or 24 hours, sure. But it's not good to starve yourself for 40 days. Do not copy this. Okay? What else is going to happen? Well, he's going to be in a calorie deficit, so he's going to burn a heck of a lot of fat real quick. How much fat can he lose? Well, let's say he's 13% right now. He could go down to 3. That's 10%. He weighs 190, 195. That's 19 pounds of fat. On this starvation diet, he's going to lose more than 19 pounds of fat, which is impossible. Okay? He can't do it. So he's going to lose even more muscle. All this energy is going to come from muscle tissue. So he's going to lose so much muscle that it's not even going to be funny. He's going to wither away to nothing. He's going to look like, what the heck heck's that actor?
Hey Siri.
Oh, Siri is the bias against me. Siri never answers.
Who is the actor who played in The Joker?
See how hard it is to make YouTube videos?
Joaquin Phoenix.
He's gonna look like Joaquin Felix in The Joker.
Phoenix.
What? Didn't I say that?
Felix.
Joaquin Phoenix. He's gonna look like Joaquin Phoenix in The Joker. Lost all this weight real.
Now let's look at the medical advice on hunger strikes. A study in the British Medical Journal found that conclusions from studies recommend independent medical monitoring after a weight loss of 10% in lean, healthy individuals. If the pre-hunger strike weight is unknown, a maximum of 10 days hunger strike or a body mass index of less than 16.5 kilograms per meter squared should be the trigger. Major problems arise at a weight loss of around 18%. The main disabling symptom is feeling faint and dizzy. Hunger strikers learn to stand up very slowly and may become almost bedbound. This may affect their ability to state their case. Bradycardia and drop in blood pressure are well recognized as effects of even relatively short fasting and were seen in all the individuals studied closely. Orthostatic hypertension was present by about day 20 in all cases in which it was recorded, and in at least one case it was almost disabling. Weakness and lightheadedness was common. The cause of this is not clear, but could be partly due to electrolyte imbalance. Although thyroxine concentrations are maintained in fasting, a certain molecule is converted rapidly to an inactive metabolite, thus reducing effective thyroid function. This is an important physiological protective function, but will lead to weakness and a sensation of feeling cold. Abdominal pain was described by around 3/4 of those studied, even in the early stages. Connor has lost around 10% of his body weight so far, so medical intervention and monitoring is needed as the severe side effects of starvation are starting. In addition, a study on juvenile pigs following 29 days of complete starvation also found instances of bradycardia and hypotension in the pigs. So it seems pretty common that if you're going to fast for that long, you're probably going to end up with those conditions. Now, from Wikipedia, the science of starvation. Early symptoms include impulsivity, irritability, and hyperactivity. Atrophy, wasting away of the stomach, weakens the perception of hunger, since the perception is controlled by the volume of stomach that is empty. Individuals experiencing starvation lose substantial fat, or adipose tissue, and muscle mass as the body breaks down these tissues for energy. Catabolysis is the process of a body breaking down its own muscles and other tissues in order to keep vital systems such as the nervous system and heart muscle, myocardium, functioning. The energy deficiency inherent in starvation causes fatigue and renders the victim more apathetic over time. As a starving person becomes too weak to move or even eat, their interaction with the surrounding world diminishes. In females, menstruation ceases when the body fat percentage is too low to support a fetus. Victims of starvation are often too weak to sense thirst and therefore become dehydrated. All movements become painful due to muscle atrophy and dry, cracked skin that is caused by severe dehydration. With a weakened body, diseases are commonplace. Fungi, for example, often grow under the esophagus, making swallowing painful. Vitamin deficiency is also a common result of starvation, often leading to anemia, beriberi, pellagra, and scurvy. These diseases collectively can also cause diarrhea, skin rashes, edema, and heart failure. Individuals are often irritable and lethargic as a result. There is insufficient scientific data on exactly how long people can live without food, although the length of time varies with an individual's percentage of body fat and general health. One medical study estimates that in adults, complete starvation leads to death within 8 to 12 weeks. Once the loss of their normal body weight reaches 40%, death is almost inevitable. In a leaner person, the fat reserves are depleted faster, the protein depletion occurs sooner, and therefore death occurs sooner. The ultimate cause of death is in general cardiac arrhythmia or cardiac arrest, brought on by tissue degradation and electrolyte imbalances. Alternatively, things like metabolic acidosis may also cause death in starving people. Now we're going on to part D, why he needs help and what can you do to help. If you are watching this video and ask for help, as there is very little doubt that you are still in the same episode of psychosis since you have not given enough time for your prescribed medications to work. To anybody else who knows him, this video is clear evidence of his current mental state and explains why he needs help. This is why contact care. The police department in Austin, Texas is the best option. However, if they refuse to intervene, then they will not be doing their job as mandated by the laws of the state of Texas, specifically 73.00, as they would be denying a patient diagnosed with either drug-induced psychosis or bipolar disorder medical intervention, which he requires, as he will suffer severe side effects of starvation after losing 10% of his body mass, and is gravely disabled as he cannot recognize this. They can also be held legally responsible if something happens to him. If they do not end up intervening, please do try contacting a local news agency or reporters that you may know of, as they may want to report on this and why YouTube has not taken down his live stream despite it being effectively self-harm. You can also sign my petition, which has been re-uploaded to help get Connor Murphy urgent help by attracting the attention of the emergency services and encouraging them to act. Indeed, we are watching somebody die before our very eyes. If any of you know Connor Murphy and would like further information, please do not hesitate to get in touch. I do hope, though, that we eventually get to see the old Connor back after a thorough medical intervention after a few months. I will also be putting out a video soon on what psychosis is and how it is treated, so be sure to keep an eye out by subscribing and hitting the notification bell. Thanks.